Hello, everybody, and thank you for once again tuning into the Iron Purpose podcast. This is episode 8, where I dive into conversation with a trainer of professional athletes. He specifically trains mixed martial artists, not only in the physical, but also the mental. Kind of gets into how to bring the best possible version of oneself out. It's got a pretty neat story, and it's pretty cool what he's able to do. We get into how he's a positive person, what he does to kind of stay there, and he understands that positivity isn't something that means that no negativity is going to come into our lives, but that positivity helps us move through those challenging times. Awesome conversation with an awesome guy. I know for sure this isn't going to be the last conversation that I have with this individual. But this is Iron Purpose Podcast, episode 8, featuring Kenny Dusseault. Stay sharp, everybody. All right. Thank you, everybody, for once again joining into the Iron Purpose podcast. Today, I have Mr. Kenny Dusseault. Kenny, how's it going, man?
Dude, it's going great. I appreciate you having me on.
Yeah, I'm stoked to get you on here. I think it was a little while ago. I don't know if you started following the page first or how did we even connect? Do you know?
Dude, honestly, that's a good question. I'm not really sure at this point, if I'm honest.
Yeah, because I think I did an episode with Cody Gibson. I
Yeah,
see that he follows you too. I don't know if you've done any work with him or not, but
yeah, we're working together right now, actually.
oh, awesome. Cody's an awesome guy. It was cool to get him on here and pick his brain. But I think that's how it got connected. And I started following you, and then you have like a chat thing where you kind of keep people encouraged and kind of what's going on within the chat. So I was following that, and I was like, let's get this guy on the podcast. He's got some wisdom, I think, in that noggin of his that he could share with some people.
Yeah, I try my best.
Absolutely. So what you been up to lately? Anything fun and exciting? Having a good Christmas season, New Year's season so far?
Yeah, man, I'm back visiting some family right now. So I'm back in Ottawa, Canada, for anybody
Oh,
listening.
wow.
But
Okay.
yeah, seeing some family. I've got my brother, his wife, and their two kids in town, and then here seeing my parents too. So just been a really good, like, rare moment of like taking the foot off the gas a little bit and just enjoying life and not pushing quite as much as I usually am. But
Mm,
just great seeing little kids too, like seeing those kids grow up. It's like always just such a fun, like, heartwarming time. So been a
absolutely.
really good Christmas season. How about you?
Yeah, it's been good. We my family's all kind of right in the area here, and we're in central Minnesota.
Nice.
So I don't have to travel super far, which is kind of nice. But yeah, just spending time. We did Christmas with my mom on last week, and then with my dad as well last week. And this weekend we're going to my grandma's with all my cousins, and kind of like you said, all those the younger kids and a little bit more big family. We were there last night. We're all kind of crammed in my grandma's house. So as we grow, we kind of outgrowing it, but it's cool that we're able to still keep that tradition going. We've been doing that, man, as long as I can remember. We've been going to my grandma's house over the New Year's kind of time. So it's fun to spend time with family and cousins, and like you said, get your foot off that gas for a little bit and just kind of soak in
Yeah,
the family time.
yeah, we all need that little reset every once in a while.
Absolutely. So what else you got going on right now? What are you working on?
Biggest thing is always the business. Like, it's funny every time people ask me, like, how are things going? It always kind of comes back to that. But like, one of those typical stories too, though, right? Of like, when you do what you love, it's like, if I'm not working, I'm always kind of thinking about like what the next steps for that are, right? So
Right.
it's like people think you work too much, but I'm like, man, if you enjoy every minute of it, why is that a bad thing?
Absolutely. And it seems like you get to do that. I've tuned into a couple of your podcast episodes and then followed some of your videos on there, and it seems like you're just completely immersed in what you're doing, and you absolutely love it. So
Oh, yeah, it's the best. Like, no way to beat it. And it's like, if that's life, like, it's pretty hard to beat that.
yeah, let's go. That's awesome. So for those who don't know who you are, and I'm just kind of now just learning who you are. If you don't mind, kind of getting into what made you who you are today, you can go as far back as you like and get as deep as you want or as shallow as you want, and we'll just kind of go from there. But tell us about Kenny.
Yeah, for sure. So, for anybody who doesn't know, I'm a strength and conditioning coach for combat sports athletes. So I work with kind of anyone and everyone in like the martial arts space. Like, I've got some guys that are like, trying to make their make their debuts in the amateur scenes. And then I've worked with guys all the way up to like UFC main events. So like really just a wide variety within that population. And basically what brought me to that, I mean, damn, where how much time we got here.
Let's go. Yeah.
If I really brought it back, it would be like when I started working out. Like I was like kind of typical story, I was one of those kids like never really felt like I fit in too much anywhere. Like not a bad life in any way, shape, and form, but just kind of like bouncing around to different things. Liked sports, was never all that good at sports, and just kind of always knew that I loved like being involved in it, like loved being around sports and everything like that. Started working out when I was like 13 and just absolutely loved it. And so it's like I kind of put together that I was like, if I'm not going to be an athlete, because that looked like it was pretty well off the table pretty early, just based off
Mm-hmm.
my own genetic gifts and abilities.
Sure.
Uh,
Yeah.
but if I'm not going to be an athlete, if I want to be involved in that world, the weight room was like my connection to that world. So it's just like very, very early on. I wanted to be a strength and conditioning coach. I just didn't really know that was like actually a thing that people could do.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like for a long time, kind of had that thought in the back of my mind, didn't really understand like what to do with it or how to go about it. So it was sort of training people on the side, helping out like friends, other kids at my school and stuff like that. While I was sort of going down the typical, I was going to go be a teacher or something. Then basically just hit a point when I was about 20 where I was like, man, I would rather jump off a bridge than spend my whole life in school. And like, nothing
Uh,
against teachers, like we need them. They're a great service to society, but it's like for
absolutely.
myself, like I was like, dude, like oh my God, I could like what am I doing? Like and just hit the point where I was like, I would rather try what I actually want to do and fail at it and then go back to school and be a teacher when I'm 27
Mm. So were
than
you actually in school at that point to be a teacher?
yeah, yeah. So I
Okay.
was in university. I was in a languages degree, and I was gonna go be a teacher. I grew up speaking French and like
Hmm.
learned a very, very minute amount of Spanish through high school and university. And so I was gonna go be a teacher, probably teach French at like a high school or something like that. And then yeah, just like hit the point where I was like sitting in my dorm room one day, and I was like, this is not like no, this is not it. Like this is
Mm-hmm.
not where I want to be. This is not what I want to be doing. And so switched degrees, ended up going into sports studies and athletic development to be a strength and conditioning coach. And faced kind of the typical like people like if you Google strength and conditioning coach average salary, there's like no jobs in this field, and the ones that are in this field don't pay well. So it was like very much I was pursuing this with kind of no idea where it was going to lead.
Mm.
But I just knew I was like, I'd rather pursue this, fail at it, and then know, hey, this wasn't meant to be, and I could go do something else,
Mm-hmm.
than pursue something else and spend my whole life being like, man, what if I could have gotten one of those jobs and lived that life? You know what I mean?
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah, and then it's like I mean, since basically making that decision, everything has just been like, what opportunity can I find that puts me in a room that can help me go towards that? Like, I spent summers interning with the Montreal Alouettes in the CFL, spent a year working at a hockey training center in Ottawa, moved out to Calgary for a job at a gym that was training a bunch of high performance athletes, started my business in 2019, and then
Okay.
like the last 3 years or so, I've been working with some business coaches that really helped me like dial it in and like figure it out. So it's like the way I always put it is I was doing all of the right stuff. I just wasn't doing any of it very well.
Mm.
So I hired these coaches and they were able to kind of just like make those little tweaks and changes. And then over the last few years, it's just exploded. Like within this niche, I found the people that, really like lit me on fire in terms of like doing this
Yeah.
job and doing it the right way. And yeah, I mean, the rest is history.
That's awesome, man. Yeah, what a testament, because you get to that point where you're like, man, I don't know if this is for me anymore, and I can kind of relate to that a little bit, and because I'm a correctional officer, I work in a jail right now, and I was a police officer for about 3 years, and I was trying to find my way in there, and at one point I was like, maybe I should pivot and do something different, and I was watching UFC, I was watching it was Conor McGregor and Dustin Poirier, their second fight, and I was having a conversation with my wife, and I was like, "Yeah, I'm done with law enforcement. I don't want anything to do with it anymore." And after that night, she's like, I really enjoy collecting like patches, law enforcement patches. I got a couple of them laying around here, but she's like, why are you still collecting these things if you don't want to pursue this anymore? And I was like, yeah, all right, we'll give it one more shot. We'll go again. And, if it doesn't work out, then at least, like you said, at least I know I tried instead of wondering, what if I had done that? And,
Yeah.
and you know how that goes. But, yeah, ended up not working out. And now it kind of led me to a path of where I'm working at a jail now. And I feel so much passion and purpose with where I'm at. And it kind of opened the door for me to do stuff like this and try to, help other people out through conversation. So it's super cool when you can kind of see both sides of the story. Like, I'm going to do this. Let's see if it works out, and it does. Or and even if it doesn't work out, that's totally fine too.
100%. I always tell athletes that too, right? Because it's like, whenever somebody says, I want to be a professional athlete, right? What's the first thing they're met with? Oh, that's never going to happen. Oh, be more realistic, all that kind of bullshit. And like, I always tell athletes that too. I'm like, well, which would you rather? Like, would you rather be the guy who, like, oh, well, I need to be realistic about my goals and then never actually push for the thing you want? Or would you rather push for the thing you want and you get one of two outcomes? Either A, you hit it, or B, you don't hit it, but you can truly look back and be like, you know what? I gave it everything I had. It just wasn't meant to
Mm-hmm.
be.
Amen.
Right? And it's like when you go on to plan B, you can at least look back without any regret and be like, you know what? I did everything I could. And it's
Mm-hmm.
like that's always been my view on that is like I'd rather step out of something and be like, okay, that just wasn't the path for me, than step out of something and be like, man, what if I just worked a little harder? What if I just tried a little bit more? What if I just given it one more year, right? Like,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And people look at that too. They think if they don't hit the mark, then it was all for nothing. But I'm recently been really enjoying like the process of things. Like there's a process to getting to where you want to be, and even if you don't hit that mark or you do hit that mark, it's not always about achieving that goal. It's about what you learned along the way to make you who you are. And like even if you do end up not getting to where you were, it's like you still learn a lot. There's still a lot to be learned, and it wasn't for nothing. And there's something that I think I was on your website and I found your approach to coaching. Whether it looks like you coach some hockey guys, some NFL, maybe you said some CFL guys, um, MMA, but it's not to make the best hockey player in the world. It's not to make the best, mixed martial artist in the world. It's to build the athlete. Like it's to build something like it's like even if it doesn't work out for like an MMA guy or a hockey guy, it's to build the athlete first. Can you kind of touch on that a little bit, and where does that come from for you?
yeah, absolutely. So I mean, like that to me has a couple of different layers to it, and like the first one is, if you're a fighter and you come to me, I'm not going to make you a better fighter. I'm not going to teach you how to throw a better jab or a better kick or whatever. I'm going to give you the physical tools to be able to do that more effectively. I'm going to make you stronger, faster, more explosive, all that kind of good stuff. And then if you have all of those tools at your disposal, better conditioning, strength, power, speed, then you go into the fight gym, you're going to be able to execute on those skills better. But I'm not making you a better fighter. I'm just giving you tools that create a better athlete. And then you're taking that higher level athleticism and putting it to use for your specific sport.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Then on the other side of that, like the other layer that has to me is like preparation for anything, right? So it's like my goal with an athlete when we're talking about like, the mental side of the game, and some athletes struggle with that more than others, but it's preparing you for whatever comes next, right? Because it's like sports aren't forever. And it's like to me, I want to see that like working with me, an athlete was prepared based off of like, the discipline that they put into their training, based off of like the consistency they put into their training, based off of everything that goes into what it takes to be a high level athlete. Whatever it is you pursue next, then you're going to be prepared for that too, right? Like I always draw similarities between building a business and building a career as an athlete. It's like, simple things like showing up every single day. If I stop showing up for a week, bad things happen to my business, right? If
Mm.
you stop showing up for a week as an athlete, bad things happen to your career. Like, and it's just like in every respect, it's like all those little habits that you learn, that ability to say no to the party on Friday night because you know that you're training on Saturday morning, like all of those little things over time. That it's like, even if it doesn't wind up with like, the highest level athletic career, making millions performing in your sport, whatever it is you go into next, you've built those habits and you've become that higher level athlete that's capable of now stepping into the business world, stepping into whatever job you pursue next, whatever else it might be, and you're prepared to perform there at the highest level as well.
Mm. That's powerful. And it's cool that you're able to do that. It's like a deeper level of just the strength and conditioning. It's not just the physical side of it. It is that mental and that spiritual side, whatever that looks like for you guys. But like, it's cool how the once like because even if it doesn't work out like we talked about, or even if you're not to the point where you think that you're gonna make a career out of it, it's like you're still building the best version of yourself for whatever comes next in your life. And
Yeah.
there was a quote. Where did that quote go? It was I learned it in at work the other day, and it's an Oprah quote for all you Oprah fans out there. Doing your best in this moment puts you in the best place for the next moment. So doing your best in this
Yeah.
moment puts you in the best place for the next moment.
Yeah, straight up. Like that's, I love that. And I mean, that kind of sums up exactly what I was just saying there.
Mm-hmm.
Like, yeah, it's just like it's the right mentality for anything, right? Because it's like, I'll have so many guys, it's funny, I'll have so many guys that like, when I'm talking to them about like starting strength and conditioning, they're like, "Oh yeah, I'll worry about that once I hit this level or once I hit that level." And I'm like, "No, you don't understand. Like everyone shows up to the gym every day, right? Everybody thinks that they're separating themselves by working hard, and it's like, I hate to break it to you, you're not. Like you're not separating yourself as an athlete by showing up to the gym every day. That's what everyone who has a hope of making it anywhere is doing.
Mm,
So it's like now, how do you separate yourself? You start proper strength and conditioning work. You hire the nutritionist. You make those extra investments that not everyone's willing to make,
mm-hmm.
right? It's like that's how you get to new levels. And it's like guys think like, oh, I'll worry about that once I'm up here. It's like, no, that's how you get up here,
Mm,
right? And it's
right.
like it's because the better you are in the position you're in right now, the more resources you have, the better team you have around you, all of those things, the better chance you have of actually getting to a new level. But if you're trying to like pinch and scrimp and save your way to the next level, then the guys who are willing to make the investments are going to surpass you. Like that's just it.
Right. Right. It's like the quote, and I've said it a couple of times on here before, but being your best when your best is required, because it does, like you said, it helps you get to where you're at. It's not, I'm going to get here and then I'm going to start my life. Because it's like, even in
Exactly.
business and stuff, people get to that point where it's like, all right, now I'm comfortable in my life. I've got this much money saved up and all this stuff. But now you're 80, 90 years old and you're looking back like, all right, well, now what? Now what are you
Yeah.
going to do with your life? Instead of thinking, what kind of person am I going to be when I get that, rather than focusing on that goal itself, because it helps you build.
100%. And like even like I look back at my business and it's funny because like I had that mentality for a long time, right? Like I'm just gonna do everything myself. I'm gonna figure it out and I'm gonna do all this. But it's like I hired my business coaches and the size of my business tripled in 3 months.
Wow.
And it's like it's not that like and the reason I think it was able to build up that quickly was because I'd been putting in all the work and the time and everything like that. But it's like when you bring someone into your world that has more experience in the thing that you're trying to get better at, it's like, yeah, it's scary. I gave them almost every dollar I had in the bank at the time, but
Mm-hmm.
it's like within 3 months, the size of the business tripled, and all of a sudden that investment wasn't that scary anymore.
Right.
Right? It's like people are worried about making that extra investment in themselves or putting that extra time in because what if it doesn't work out? And I always come back to like, what if it does? Like you make that choice, and then all of a sudden that's the difference that like now gets you to the level you want to get to. Now, as a fighter, as an example, now you're making $50,000 a fight in the UFC instead of $3,000 a fight on the regional scene.
Right.
Better does your life look like? And it's the higher and higher you climb, the bigger and bigger the platform, the more opportunities you get.
Mm.
But people are so concerned with like making the investment, whether financial, time, or elsewhere, that's actually going to get them to that level because it might not work out. But it's like the people willing to make those decisions are the ones that get to the level you want to get to.
Mm-hmm. That's crazy. Like how you said, like, well, what if it doesn't work out? Why are so many people so drawn to that? You think it's just yeah. What in the world? Like, I don't understand. Like, it's like, or even like people think about negative things, or like, oh, what's gonna happen here? And my wife is pregnant with our first kid. It's gonna be a boy in March. So yeah, we're pretty stoked about that. But with that comes a lot of negativity, a lot of things like, oh, we're worried about this or that. It's like, well, what if it doesn't do that? Or I also have a friend who's pregnant and she was freaking out. Or I have a coworker who was worried about having to switch to a different shift, and his mind was so consumed with the negativity part of it. Like, well, what if I have to go work night shift, or what if I have to do this or that? It's like, well, what if you don't? Why don't you wait until you get to that point and then worry about it then? But don't waste your time now, because what if it works out?
100%. But I think we live in such a negative world. Like, you turn on the news and it's like massive problem happens over here, people died over here, big horrible life event happens over here. Like, there's very rarely anything positive that gets put into our minds, right?
Right.
But it's like it takes a lot of work to keep yourself in that headspace. But it's like but I mean, again, that's why some people rise above it and some people don't, right? Some people are
Mm-hmm.
so consumed with all the problems that might arise. But it's like, if you can get yourself past that, you realize that we live in a pretty incredible world. Like, even
Mm.
just over the last number of years, right? It's like, oh, the economy's in the worst place it's ever been, and gas prices are so high, and this problem and that problem. I'm like, I don't know. I put my head down, shut all of that out, and built a business, and I'm in a way better spot than I was 5 years ago when the economy was better. Like,
Right.
it's like we have the power, but we forget that we have the power. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. And that's crazy. Was there ever a time where you were faced with that decision, where you kind of maybe found yourself in that negative mindset and was like, what am I doing? Because you seem like a very optimistic, positive guy, just in the short time that I've spoken with you or been following you. Was there a turning point in your life for that? And how did you kind of get to where you're at with that mentality?
There's been a couple of different ones, honestly. Cause yeah, I grew up very much kind of in that mentality. Like, it was always like, blend into the pack, don't try to stand out. If you try to climb too high, the fall's even higher. Like, all that
Mm.
kind of like, just like, what if it doesn't work out kind of mindset. But I think I just hit a point where I looked around and I was sick of where I was at, right? As kind of cliche as that sounds, like I was, sitting in university being like, I'm going to spend 4 years in a degree I don't want, thousands and thousands of my own dollars to get something that I don't want, to go try to find a job I don't really want, to make a mediocre salary doing something I don't really like. What am I doing? Right? And then it's like, it just kind of hit the point where I was like, every part of this sounds terrible. Why would I just keep, like, why am I just going to accept, like, yeah, well, that's life. It's like, wow, like, so the next 70 years is just going to suck. Like, that's cool.
Sign me
And
up.
yeah, exactly. I was like, damn. And so I just kind of hit that point where I was like, nothing about what I'm doing sounds fun. So like, I want to be excited about something that I'm doing. And it's like, I looked around and I was like, okay, what's the part of my day that I'm excited about? And it was the time in the gym. It was the time with,
Oh,
these
wow.
people that I was training for free and all of that. So it's like, that was like one of them where I was like, okay, I'm going to actually want to pursue something that I enjoy and that I'm passionate about. And then it's like, over the years, there's been a bunch of other ones where it's like, I think the way to sum it up the best without like going way down the rabbit hole is like, every time I look around and I'm like, every time I look around and I feel like I'm not happy about the situation I'm in, I realize I'm like, okay, there's a change that needs to be made. And I can either sit around and not be happy about the situation I'm in, or I can take a shot and try to change it.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So it was like, at the last job I was at before starting my business, like, there was a lot of positives about the job. I was learning a lot. It was a great gym, but I wasn't happy with the situation I was in. And I was like, okay, I can stay here, whine and complain like a fucking loser, or I can take a shot and try to start my own business. And it's like, either A, it works out and everything comes true, or B,
Right.
it doesn't work out and then I go find another job. So it's like,
Mm-hmm.
worst case scenario, I stay where I'm at. Best case scenario, life gets way better. So I'm going to take the shot and try to make life way better.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's like, even within the business, when COVID shut the world down, right? It's like that negative mindset of like, oh, I'm starting my own business and now like this thing that's out of my control just took it all away. Okay, well, I can sit around and whine and complain about that, or I can figure out how to move my business online, right? And then it's like, I figured out how to work with people online and do all of that. And then it started building a little bit. Things were getting a little bit better, but like, it was still a shitload of work for not a great return. And then I ran into my business coaches online and I was like, okay, I can either sit around and complain about the fact that I'm working all these hours for not very much money, or I can give some of this money to these people and hope that it works out. And then it's like, they helped me get better on social media, and that's what helped me explode there. And they helped me build a better business. Now, like, the business is way bigger. I'm much more efficient, so I'm able to help a lot more people and not be like crazy stressed out of my mind all the time. So
Mm-hmm.
it's like every time I hit that point where I'm like, there's something that continues to nag at me that I'm not happy about. That's I get sort of sucked into that negative mindset, but now I'm getting better at recognizing it.
Mm.
And every time I recognize, hey, I'm not happy about this thing, and that thought keeps coming up, I'm like, well, I have to make a change because I'm not going to sit around and just complain about this thing that I don't like. So what am I going to do? What am I going to do about it? Right? And then every time there's always a solution of like, this is the thing that I can do about it. And
Mm-hmm.
then I'm faced with the decision: do I sit around and keep complaining, or do I take a shot? And every time I take a shot, it's stressful, but it works out. And so that's just like that's the continuous cycle basically.
Right. I love that. Do you do any journaling at all? Or when you
Pretty much every morning.
really? Okay.
Yeah.
What does that look like for you?
Like right now I'm using there's this thing, it's like the 5 minute journal, and it basically there's like a few different little prompts, so it only takes a couple of minutes. But it's like, go through like three things that you're grateful for the day, three things that would make today great. I can't remember the other prompts off the top of my head, but like just some real basic prompts, and then you just go through, and it's like actually like one of the things that I credit like being able to keep a better mindset about. One of the things I credit that for sure is morning routines. And like I know that kind of stuff gets a bad rap, right? It's like the David Goggins motivational shit, but it's like, dude, it's such a powerful thing. Like we get so pounded with negativity all the time that it's like if you take some time in the morning and just reset your mind and focus on something good and something positive, you just start the day in a better place. And if you start the day in a better place, you're gonna have a better day,
Mm-hmm.
right? And it's like the journaling's a huge part of that. Like the gratitudes, it's just like you spend 10 minutes in the morning thinking of some good things in your life, right? And then now all of a sudden, like something bad happens, and you're like, yeah, but life's still pretty good, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then it's like three things that would make today great. And I always just think about like, okay, what am I going to try to get done today? And then it's like I think of those three things, and then at the end of the day, when I look back at it, I'm like, okay, I did those three things that made today a good day. So it's like even if I don't feel great, I'm like, yeah, today was still good,
Mm.
right? It just kind of keeps the mind positive all the time. And it's like it doesn't mean that I never have a negative feeling, but it's just keeping your mind, like keeping yourself in that frame actively. It's way harder to get sucked out of it. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And it's like I heard a quote about faith. Like faith doesn't mean that nothing bad's gonna happen to me. It means that I'm gonna be able to face that when it does happen to me. So it's kind of like
Yeah,
that positive mindset. It's like just because I'm a positive person doesn't mean I don't face adversity, or doesn't mean that there's gonna be a bunch of BS thrown my way. But it means I'm gonna be able to face it and better navigate through it with that mindset rather than a negative one.
of course. And like one of my favorite quotes with that is like, don't let a bad 10 minutes turn into a bad day.
Mm,
And it's like just because something shitty happens, it doesn't mean the rest of the day has to suck, right?
right.
And it's
Or
like
your
even like
life.
exactly like a month ago, like it was right after we had like a big snowstorm, and I was driving into a parking lot, and like the cement barrier was completely covered in snow, so I
Oh
didn't see
no.
it. I drove over this cement barrier, didn't realize what I'd hit, backed up, and literally ripped the bumper off the front of my car. And it's like it cost like $1,400 to fix, and it's like, but literally my mood was affected for about 2 minutes. It was like, it's like backed up, like got out of the car, saw that the bumper was torn off. I was like, fuck. And I was like, well, what's done is done. Like, if it's like me being pissed about it isn't gonna magically reattach the bumper, so I may as well just move on. Like, right? It's like it didn't make it like it wasn't fun to deal with,
uh,
but I was like, I'm not gonna sit around and be like, oh, what the fuck? Like, it's like it's
right.
done.
Right. Ah, I love that. That's an excellent mindset. And it reminds me of I don't know if you've ever heard of Zig Ziglar, but and in my last podcast that I dropped, I talked about it's like kicking the cat. I think is what he called it. Where like CEO is driving to work. He gets pulled over by a cop, and the cop gives him a ticket. And then now that CEO's all upset, and he's like, "Oh, why me? Why does that have to happen to me? That cop was, stupid. F the police and all this stuff." And
Yeah.
yeah, and well, now I hate my life. And he gets to work and goes to his office and goes past the receptionist, and she's like, "Hey, boss, how's it going?" And he's like, "Ah," and gives her just a bad attitude or whatever. And then all of a sudden she takes that. And it's like, "Oh, yeah, well, did I do something wrong? And am I a bad receptionist?" And starts to just dwell on it. And she's upset, and so she goes to the drink, or the water cooler or whatever, is getting a drink, and somebody else is standing there talking to her, and she's like, "Yeah, I'm a bad receptionist, and now my day is just completely shot." And then that guy she's talking to goes home to his kids or whatever, and he's all upset because this negative train, and he ends up taking out on his kids, and the kid's like, "My dad hates me," and goes outside and sees the neighbor's cat and kicks the neighbor's cat. All that to say is Zig Ziglar's like, would that CEO have been better off just driving to that kid's house and kicking the cat? And it's like, we have an opportunity somewhere in there to decide how we're going to act. And and sometimes, we don't know how our actions, or how our thoughts, or our negative mindset, or even the positive ones, can influence other people around us. So like by you rip the freaking bumper off the front of your car, but what good is it going to do to sit there and be negative about it? Because it's only going to transfer on to the people that you care about. And maybe even your coaching, you go home and you have a client or something, and all of a sudden you're pissed off and like, what, screw this. I'm having a bad day, so I don't even care about you anymore. And then that client's like, "All right, see you later, man." And there goes your business. Like,
well, exactly, right? And it's just like, and I mean, really and truly, it's one of those things that like anything like that happens too, when you really break it down, it's not a big deal.
mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? It's like, okay, yeah, that sucks, but like life's still pretty good. Like I still wake up every day and do the thing I love and get paid for it, and I still have people in my life, and I still get cool opportunities. Like it's like, yeah, that one thing sucked, but like 99% of life is still pretty great. So like why am I
Right.
gonna why am I gonna let that ruin anything when life's still good? You know what I mean?
Right. Oh, yeah. That's beautiful. I just picture you like showing up to the gym with your bumper just, and you get out, "Hey guys, how's it going?" And they're like, "What? What?
What?
You all right, man? Yeah, life's beautiful. Let's go. Let's get a workout in."
Hey, let's do this thing.
Oh,
Like
I love that. Yeah, life's too short not to. It's
exactly right. It's like we only have so many days, and I'm like, am I really gonna waste one of them being upset that like I'm like, dude, like I have a car. Like, why am I gonna be upset? Like, okay, the car, like I had to repair the car. It's like, cool, I still have a car. There's people walking around in winter. There's people sleeping outside in winter. I get to
right.
drive around. Like, that's pretty great. Like,
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Going back to journaling just a little bit, and I
yeah,
didn't even mean to talk about this, but that's something that I'm trying to incorporate in my life a little bit more, because like you said, like when those negative things come, you're able to assess it, take a look at it and say, "All right, how can I change this?" And it reminded me of a training that I did a little bit ago, but it's called the OODA loop. I don't know if you've heard of the OODA loop,
I think so. No,
but what the OODA loop is, it stands for observe, orient, decide, and act. And we see it a lot in like in law enforcement and in training. As when I was a police officer, like we all have an OODA loop. So when like say somebody, and we did a lot of like defensive tactics training, because somebody they have a plan. They're observing you. They're orienting to it. Maybe they're gonna pull back to throw a kick or a punch, and then they're gonna decide on it, and then they're gonna act on it. So like if you see somebody kind of observing you or orientating to you, maybe they're clenching their fist, or maybe they're getting ready to throw that punch or that kick. What you do is you step out of their way or something, and then it'll throw off their OODA loop, and it resets the OODA loop to where they have to then again observe, all right, orient to get that punch ready, and then decide, I'm going to throw it, and act. So that's just kind of a little example of it. But I thought of it when you were talking about your journaling. You have an opportunity to throw all that stuff down on a piece of paper. You observe it, orient yourself to it, and then you decide, okay, what are these things? Am I happy about these things? Maybe one of these needs to change, and then you can act on it at that point. So that's just kind of got my mind going. But the 5-minute journal, is that an app or an online thing, or is it a book?
no, it's like an actual physical journal. I think you can get it on Amazon for like $25 or something like that.
Okay, I'm gonna have to check that out.
Yeah, I'd recommend it for sure. It's just like it's quick. It's easy, but it just like every single day, right? I'm starting my day being like, "Hey, what are the good things about life? What am I grateful for? and what am I basically setting the intentions for the day, right? It's like, what am I gonna do today? And then it's like, take 5 minutes in the morning, and I'm like, I kind of have the plan for the day already kind of ready to go, and I'm in a positive frame of mind, being like, you know what, life's pretty great. So it's like you start your day happy, and you start your day with intention, and
Mm-hmm.
it's like it just sets you up for a better day.
Absolutely. Especially, because some people, we've probably all heard the quote, it looks like you woke up on the wrong side of the bed. Like, what's going on?
Yeah,
Because you have the alarm clock going off. You're like, oh man, now I gotta get up and all this stuff, go to work, and it just progresses and it continues.
yeah,
So when you can wake up with, boom, and Zig Ziglar again, he called his alarm clock his opportunity clock because he's able to get up and boom, wake up and take the day head on rather than let it come to you. Like you said, being setting your intention, being intentional with your morning.
yeah, 100%, man. And it's like that's the other reason too. And it's like this is something else that I find super powerful is it's waking up early. And it's one of those things that it's another typical like, motivational kind of thing, right? But it's like it's just such a powerful thing because it's like I'm up at 4 a.m.
Wow.
And the reason that I like doing that is because it's like the first probably 2.5 hours of the day, nothing's required other than me, right? It's like
Oh wow.
most of the time I'm not getting messages from clients at 4 o'clock in the morning or anything like that, right? So it's like I'm literally waking up and I'm like, I get to kind of relax a little bit. I get to take in the morning a little bit. I get to go to the gym, take as much time as I want with my workout. Like I get to take my time, and then like 6:30, 7 o'clock hits, and I'm like, okay, now it's like work time. You know what I mean?
Mm,
So it's like, but every single day I get to take care of me before I take care of anybody else. Cause like there's a lot required of me, and my business has over 100 clients. Like we got a lot of stuff going on, but it's like the first 2.5 to 3 hours of my day, I'm taking care of me. And it's like when you're taken care of, it's way easier to show up and take care of the other people that require you. So it's like for me, I'm like, I'm going to take care of me. I'm going to make sure I feel good. I get my time. And then once I get my time, it's easy to show up the rest of the day and take care of everybody else.
mm. That's beautiful. I've never heard it that way before. Nothing is required at that time other than me.
Yeah. It's
And
like,
it's a
and so it's like sometimes, I'll wake up and I'm like, I'm going to take it a little slower this morning. I like have a cup of coffee, drink my water, do whatever, sit and watch some goofy shit on my phone. Like it doesn't, it's like, it's not like I'm waking up at 4 and it's like immediately to the grind. Like it's like, no, take care of me, relax a little bit, enjoy
hmm
the first couple hours of the day and then get into it. And then once I'm into it, I don't feel like I'm missing out on anything.
mm
Right. And it's like now it's easy to just like shut everything else out and be like, what requires my attention and just give it all to that.
hmm And then you don't feel guilty throughout the day. Like if you were to sit down halfway through the afternoon when you got stuff you should be doing and you're scrolling on your phone watching that funny stuff or whatever, that's a that's awesome. And like for myself too, I used to work out before I go to work, but now with my new schedule, I'm not able to do that anymore. But it was nice because, well, I suppose I could get up and do a workout without the gym. But because then it's in the back of my mind, like, okay, well now when I gotta try to figure out how to get a workout in after work, and then you're thinking about other stuff, and then if you don't get to it, now it's like, oh man, well now I'm a loser because I wasn't able to get to my workout and do the things that I wanted to do.
Yeah.
But getting out of the way right away, it kind of eliminates that opportunity to procrastinate if you're taking
Yeah.
care of yourself and getting those things done ahead of time.
100%, man. And the other part of it that I really like too, and like it's just, again, starts the day in the positive frame of mind, is it's like the 4 a.m. alarm clock goes off and I get up right away, don't hit the snooze button, don't fucking lie around for the first 20 minutes. It's
Right.
like immediately you start your day with a win. And it's like those little things are
Mm.
so much more important than people realize.
Mm-hmm.
Because, like, one of the reasons, like I always say, it's like if you try, like, if you want to build an exceptional life, whatever that looks like, right? Whether you're an athlete listening to this, person running a business, whatever else it might be, exceptional things are required. And it's like as simple as it might be, every single day the alarm clock goes off, I get up right away, I win. And it's
Mm.
like now immediately I'm like, because like don't get me wrong, even though I like waking up at 4, every 4 o'clock morning that when that alarm clock goes off, I'm not like woohoo 4 a.m. let's go like it's like I'm still like dragging my ass up, being like all right, like, let's do this,
Right.
right? But it's like every single day I do it, and I'm like okay, something is like I start my day being like fuck I don't want to do this, and I do it anyway. Then it's
Mm-hmm.
like through the day, when that thing comes up that I'm like, oh, I don't want to do this, I'm like, it's easy to do it anyway, right? Like you
Mm-hmm.
start your day reinforcing the fact that when stuff is difficult, you can do it anyway.
Mm.
Like as simple as that is, it's so powerful because it's like stuff doesn't come up anymore that I feel like, oh shit, how am I going to deal with this? I'm like, oh yeah, I can figure this out. Like let's, and it's just like it's stuff doesn't get as stressful when you
Mm.
start your day off every day winning. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah. That's an awesome analogy. Because then, yeah, everything that comes your way is just, it's just another alarm clock. Get out of my way. Let's go.
Exactly right. Like the thing comes up and you're like, nah, I did hard shit already today. I can do one more. That's fine.
Mm-hmm. Well, I always said, like, I've told people too, like, getting up and working out, like, putting yourself through that physical pain and that physical, like, grind right off the bat. Like you said, it's setting up a win. But I never thought of just, waking up and beating your alarm clock that's a win in and of itself right there.
Every single little thing, right? It's like you get up, you get up, you hit like you don't hit snooze, you get up right away. That's a little win. It's like you
Well,
have a good actual like proper breakfast that fuels your body. That's a win. You rush out the door and stop at a drive-through somewhere. That's a loss. Like it's like the more I kind of started looking at stuff that way, the more and more I started realizing that I'm like, okay, it like you give yourself that grace and you give yourself, even though it's like pretty basic stuff, the alarm clock goes up, you goes off, you get up.
mm-hmm.
It's like the more I started looking at like every little piece of that as a win, the more I started reinforcing like, yeah, okay, I can just keep winning. Like every time a thing comes up, what's the win, what's the loss, I'm gonna go for the win. And it's like it just makes life a little bit more fun. Like you'd give yourself that little bit like, hey, alarm clock went off and you got up, like good work. And then every single time that happens, you give that little pat on the back, you just keep going after that. You know what I mean?
Wow. And that opens up more positivity and it kind of just
100%.
reinforces what we just talked about, and then you you lose your bumper driving into a brick wall. It's like, all right, well,
Well,
I'm
I'll
a,
take the loss on that one.
right. Or hey, I'm still alive, or hey, I got a car. Like you said, it's like, yeah, I'm still winning. I'm alive.
Yeah,
Like I'm breathing.
exactly. Right.
That's a win. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Ah,
Every
man.
single little thing is just like another win here, another win here, another win here, and it just makes life more enjoyable because it's like I get to literally walk through life every day being like, I'm winning. This is great.
oh, that's it just brought just a little reminder into my mind. Like if somebody says, "How you doing?" Say, "Winning." Mentally. Like, how
Yeah,
are you? How's it going, man? Hey, I'm just winning.
yeah,
That's
exactly. I love that. I
uh,
love it.
I
And
might start
like,
using that.
yeah, man, and it's funny that you say that too, because it's like I started dating a girl about it like a month ago, and she like at one point she turned to me, she was like, "What I absolutely love about you is every time I ask how was your day, it's always it was great, no matter what, like." And then like sometimes some bad stuff will happen, and I'll be like, "Oh yeah, like this happened today, that happened today," but she's like, every single day, you're always like, "It was great," and it's like, yeah, because I mean, it was like. And it's like it's just second nature now, but it's like it's cool seeing that like that gets noticed by people too. You know what
Yeah,
I mean?
yeah, because it's contagious. It is
Yeah.
contagious.
Yeah, exactly.
And and I keep looking over here, but I'm writing down notes, so don't think I'm ignoring you. But that's man,
Good.
that's awesome stuff that I'm definitely gonna apply to my life
Yeah.
immediately.
I'm gonna start using that like how you doing just winning. I'm gonna start using that too. I like
Let's
that a lot.
go.
Yeah.
Oh, let's see. What else did I have for you? So, was it always a morning routine guy, or was there a point in your life where you had to and where you had to adjust to that? And what did that look like for you?
Oh, definitely not always.
Yeah.
Like I was definitely for a long time the, hit the snooze button until the last possible second, then just roll out of bed and start the day rushing. Um, but honestly, the morning routine was probably since hiring the business coaches a couple years ago. And it was really just, it came down to, again, if you want an exceptional life, you got to do things that are exceptional. You got to do things that are different. You got to do things that are above and beyond what everybody else is doing. And I started realizing that I was like, when I start my day rushed, it ruins the rest of the day, right? It's like if you have to be somewhere at 8:30 and you're rolling out of bed at 8:15, okay, you didn't get a shower, you didn't get breakfast, you didn't get this, you didn't get that. You're starting the day, even if you're, because I would do that going into coach. Like I'd go to the gym,
Mm.
roll out of bed 20 minutes before I had to be at the gym, rush out the door and get to my session. Starting the session, I'm like, eyes half shut, like basically just trying to stay awake. And I'm like, I'm not delivering quality to these people. That doesn't feel good. I I'm starving. That doesn't feel good. I'm fucking gross because I haven't showered. That doesn't feel good. It's like I start the day with everything just feeling terrible every day,
Mm.
right? And it's like, so the adjustment to it, and anybody that, hears, oh, get up at 4 o'clock in the morning every day, don't just try to start doing that immediately. It's like, it started off with like, okay, like they were reinforcing the importance of consistency with me. They were like, you're trying to build this business. Everything you do needs to be consistent every day.
Hmm.
Right. And I was like, okay, so they said, they were like, first thing, consistent wake up time. It's like, don't be waking up like, 9 a.m. one day, 7 a.m. the next day and kind of doing that. They were like, find the time that works and do that every day. So in the beginning, it was all my morning routine was in the beginning was I'm going to set a 7 o'clock alarm and I'm going to wake up at 7 and I'm going to get out of bed. Whatever happens after that happens. But it's like I was just building the habit of like, when I say 7 o'clock, that means 7 o'clock.
Hmm.
Right. And then it's like that's bumped earlier and earlier over the years because now there's more stuff on my plate. So I want to have that time for myself before the day.
Hmm.
But like then it became, I had my wake up time and I had one other thing that I added to it. And then it was the wake up time and two other things that I added to it. And it's like now the first hour of the day is pretty much planned out.
Hmm.
But it's like little bit by little bit, I built the consistency over time. And it's like really what it looked like in terms of actually making that change was just getting into the habit of being consistent. If the day is starting inconsistently every day, it's hard to make consistent progress every day. But as soon as I had that schedule of like, I wake up at this time, I do these three things, it's like now I know by the time my day starts now, I have my list for the day written. I have my first post up on social media. I have all my client messages answered. I have all my team messages answered. I've meditated for 10 minutes and I've done my journal. So it's like by the time my day starts and I head to the gym, I have six things done that make my body feel good, make my mind feel good, and start my business forward on the right foot for the day.
Hmm.
Right. And it's like now, whatever happens in the rest of the day, I've already made progress. Right. And it's like, so over time, it just like got myself into the habit of like, if I want to make progress and build something great, which is in the vision, I need to start every day moving towards that.
Hmm.
And it's like, so that just sort of got me into the habit of like, just do it. It's not that hard. When the
Right.
alarm, you know how you get up earlier? You set an earlier alarm, and when it wakes you up, fucking get up.
It's easy as that. Let's go.
Well, it is, right? But you hear so many people be like, "Oh, I just can't wake up early." It's like, yeah, you can. You set an alarm, and when it goes off, get up.
Oh, that's awesome. Oh, I love that. So when it comes to coaching someone, say I'm a brand new client and I come, hey Kenny, I need your help. What does that look like for you when you start them off and get them going and on a right path?
Yeah, so funny, like that's changed a lot over the years too. Like originally it was like, you come in, cool, here's a program, let's go. Right? And then over time it's just like I started observing what like the biggest issues people would run into. And it's like one is scheduling, right? It's like people like one of the biggest problems that I'll have athletes run into over the years was like, oh, this week's just been so busy, I haven't been able to hit any of my workouts. I'm like, okay, I got to help them learn how to fit that into a busy schedule. And then it's like, so as kind of time's gone on and I've seen the issues that people have had, I've kind of come up with more things that it's like now when you start with me, the first thing you get is you get an onboarding course that's like, I think 7 videos, and it's learning how to set up your schedule. It's learning like to create a vision for your career. So it's like I go through some questions of like not just like what do you want to accomplish? Like I want a UFC championship. It's like what do you want life to look like
Mm.
through this career? And the reason that I put that first and that that's so important to me is like it's very easy to fall off track if you just have one single goal. You're like I want to be a UFC champion. It's like cool, why? Right? It's like well, because it's the best. It's like okay, but like that's a really fucking hard way to make a living.
Right.
Right. So it's like if you're gonna go after this extremely difficult goal, you gotta have a motivation behind it. Right? You've got to have like what you want life to look like behind it. And so I make athletes think about that stuff right off the bat so that it's like when life gets difficult, when things get busy, when, you've got all these 100 other things on your plate, what's going to make you continue to prioritize doing all the things you need to do for your career.
Mm.
Right. And then number 3 is learning how to use the app. There's like a couple other videos just about like, how to kind of get yourself back on track. A couple things just based off of like where I find people have issues.
Mm-hmm.
And then we get into the building the program. And when it comes to building the program, it's all individualized, right? So it's like we take a couple days to go through some other questions of like, what equipment do you have access to, where your biggest weaknesses are, things like that, so that when we're putting the program together, we have it fully built around like you and what you need. So it's
Mm-hmm.
never like this is fitness for MMA. It's this is fitness for this specific athlete based around these issues that they have, right? And then basically, the programs are usually 3 to 4 week phases, and we just continue to build, and continue to make changes based off of what the athlete gives back to me, right? If you're not communicating anything with me, there's not really much I can go off of. I'm just going to keep building off of what we did in the last program.
Sure.
But the more I hear back from the athlete and they're saying, hey, I'm struggling a little bit here, dealing with this injury, whatever else it might be, the better and better I can then come back and say, okay, we need to make this change to the program. We need to add in some of this, take out a little bit of that, make the sessions shorter because they're having trouble getting them all in. Add a session in, take a session out, whatever it might be. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. So yeah, it does have a lot to do with their feedback and how they're responding to what you're giving to them.
100%. It's all about the individual, because it's like anybody can make a workout program. Like the hard part isn't making someone sweat. The hard part is building the best version of you on the specific day that you have to be at your best, and planning are all around that.
Mm-hmm. Have you had people come to you and say, "I want to get better, but I don't really know how, and I don't really have the motivation to"? Like, has there been like a challenging a time where you really had to pull it out of somebody, and what did you do to get that that inner belief out of them? Because I'm sure
I
you
like
come across a lot of people that really do struggle with trying to get up off the ground. They understand that they need help and they need a change, but they don't know where to start, and they can't really do it without like somebody holding their hand or helping them along the way. Like, how do you pull that out of somebody?
Yeah, 100%. Thankfully, with the population that I work with, a lot of them are quite motivated, right? Because if you're going to step into a ring or a cage and try to fight someone, like, hopefully you don't need motivation to train, because like,
Come
otherwise,
on, buddy,
why
you
the hell
got
are you
this.
doing this? It's like, otherwise, why the hell are you doing this? Like, if you don't want to go to the gym, don't get in a cage and try to fight someone, right?
Right? Yeah.
But it's like, a lot of the time, what I find people struggle with is like the belief of what they actually can accomplish, right? So it's like they want to train, they want to fight, but then I'll ask somebody, I'm like, what's your number one goal for competition? And they're like, just to like be the best that I can be. And I'm like, cool, but if it all plays out the way you want it to play out, what do you achieve in your career? And they're like, well, I want to be realistic, but like I want to, I kind of want to get to like this level. And I'm like, okay, cut the kind of want to, because it's like everybody that's at that level started where you're at too. Like nobody was born a UFC champion. Nobody was born high level at anything, right? And it's like obviously some people have advantages. You look at like the Khabib Nurmagomedovs of the world. He was wrestling bears when he was 9. Like it's like there's some guys that are built different. I'm not gonna sit here and try to say they're not.
Right.
Like every person that reaches that level, like you have the same 24 hours in the day that they do. The only difference is they were willing to stand up and say, I want to be a UFC champion, and you're sitting here pretending you have to be realistic, right? And it's like, so basically the biggest frame I try to put into people is like, stop being realistic and stop using the word can't,
Mm.
right? So it's like, yeah, you can. You might not, but it's like you have the ability to do anything that anybody else has the ability to do.
Mm-hmm.
Need to figure out how to do it. And it's like, are you going to be able to out wrestle Khabib? Probably not. But if you want to give yourself the chance to be able to compete with a guy at that kind of level, you need to figure out what resources you need around you, what team you need to be on, what people you need in your corner helping you along the way. And you need to put in a shitload of work.
Mm.
Are you going to get to his level? Maybe not, but if you can get here, that's a lot better than being down here complaining about how you can't do whatever. You know what I mean?
Right. Right.
And it's like, that's what I always try to reinforce with people. I'm like, whatever the goal is, it is realistic because you're a human being on planet Earth with 2 arms and 2 legs, a beating heart, and a pair of working lungs.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, as long as you have that, figure out what the next step is and start moving in that direction. And
Mm.
it's like, if you keep moving in that direction every day, you're going to give yourself a lot better chance than if you sit around complaining about how you can't or sit around talking about how it's not realistic.
Right. Love that. That's awesome. And that's something that I've been kind of thinking about with this podcast, because it all just kind of started out as something for fun, and I to kind of talk to, my buddies and whatnot. And I was looking at like a list of, I was scrolling on Instagram, and I thought of Hugh Jackman. I'm a big Wolverine fan, and Hugh Jackman, like Greatest Showman and stuff. And I was like, man, it'd be cool to interview him. I wish, too bad I can't. And then I was like, well, who's to
One
say I
day.
can't? Yeah, you never know. Like, who's to say I can't? If I keep working and building, like,
Yeah.
I don't intend on this thing making a bunch of money or anything. It's more, honestly for me, it's a personal thing. Like
But
I learn a lot.
when you start something because you're passionate about it too, you never know, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that was the same thing. It's like it's funny because I was talking to one of my business coaches about that. I was like, before hiring them, I had fully resigned myself to the fact that I would rather do this and be dirt poor, barely able to pay the bills, than be rich doing something else. And then my business coach, like I was telling him that when we were having one of our original conversations, he laughed and he goes, "No, no, 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 no. You can do the thing you love and make a bunch of money doing it. You just need to learn how." And I was like, "Fuck, okay, like yeah,
uh,
right." And it's like, but it's like because I have the passion for it, I wasn't concerned with the timelines. Like I wasn't like, oh my God, I need to get rich tomorrow. I need that 1 million followers on Instagram today. Like it's, I was just like, yeah, I just enjoy making these videos. I enjoy working with these people. I enjoy doing this thing. If it leads somewhere great, awesome. If it leads to me just being able to get through the month doing something I enjoy doing,
mm,
awesome. And
mm,
it's like, it's led to a lot greater things because I wasn't motivated by I need the money or I need the this or that. I was just motivated by the fact that I love doing this. It's super fun and it gets to help people. And I'm like, if I could keep doing that all day, every day, great. And
mm-hmm.
it's like, that's what I find helps people actually build into something bigger more than chasing something bigger. You know what I mean?
Right. Mm-hmm. Love that. Absolutely. What have you said to, or how have you responded to any naysayers or doubters? Because I'm sure they've come along the way. And like you
Oh,
said, even when you were, yeah, and even when you were younger, you said, you kind of came to the realization that you're probably not going to be a professional athlete, but you're going to figure out a way to be involved. Like even at that point, where there are people saying, "What are you thinking? You're not going to be able to do that." And I mean, how do you get through that? I mean, obviously you seem to be a very positive, optimistic person and that stuff, but it still doesn't mean it doesn't come, doesn't mean it doesn't hurt. How do you navigate that?
I mean, like my favorite expression with any of that is they don't pay my bills. Like at this point, like when I have like people talking shit or anything like that, I'm like, okay, that person doesn't pay my bills. So am I going to listen to them or am I going to keep working towards trying to pay my bills? Right. And it's like, so it's like anytime I have that person being like, oh, you're fucking dumb. You don't know what you're talking about. I'm like, oh, okay, well, all these professional athletes I work with are getting great results and they think I know what I'm talking about. So, have a good day. Like, right? And it's like it still doesn't feel good. Like I get those comments. I'm not like there's some people that like strive off of that. They're like, "Oh, someone's hating on me." Like, yes, it's like it still doesn't feel good. I don't like it,
Mm-hmm.
but at the same time I'm like, why am I going to like same thing as, the bumper on the car we were talking about before. I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
I get some random guy I don't know calling me an idiot. I'm not going to let that affect my mood for more than 5 minutes cuz it's like I don't know who this guy is. He has no impact on my life whatsoever. All the people that do know me and do work with me are getting great results. So
Mm-hmm.
who cares?
Right. Yeah, you're just a snow-covered brick wall, man. Get out of
Yeah,
here.
exactly. Yeah, exactly. You're just a snow-covered brick wall ripping the bumper off my car. You don't have
Yeah.
any effect on me, right?
Joke's on you. I didn't like that bumper anyway.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like in the beginning, like I definitely had people saying that kind of stuff too. And it's like, no, I think what I came to realize is like, when that would happen, a lot of the time it came from a place of love. Like people telling me like, oh, strength and conditioning is not necessarily the most realistic career. And like, my parents were telling me like they wanted me to like, oh, you should go into teaching. And like in my head, I was like, that's smarter, right? It's a safe job, da da da. And it's like down the road, realizing like them telling me to go into teaching wasn't them being like, oh, he can't make anything. It was just them being like, oh, this would be a good thing. He's got good skills that could help him in that direction. It's a good idea, right? But it's like, I think over time, I just started to realize I'm like, no one knows me as well as me.
Mm,
So it's like, yeah, I can take people's thoughts into consideration, or if somebody says, hey, that's not realistic for you or whatever, I can look at it and I can be like, well, are they right? And then if I don't think they are, well, who am I going to trust? Somebody that might know me or me, right? And it's like every time I trust me, it tends to work out. So I'm going to keep trusting me.
mm-hmm.
But it's like, yeah, I think the biggest thing would be coming back to like nobody knows you as well as you know yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's like when you have that person telling you, oh, this isn't realistic, somebody comes to you, says, you're never going to interview Hugh Jackman, and be like, okay, watch me.
Mm,
Like, give it time. I'm going to keep doing this. I'm going to keep growing. It might not happen next week, but if you put out 2,000 episodes over the next however long, keeps growing, gaining more attention, no reason he doesn't see it.
right.
And then if he sees it one day, you reach out to him, hey, saw that you liked that podcast episode. Appreciate you. Been a huge fan for a long time. Would love to interview. You never know, right?
Right.
It's like even when I started my podcast, the first 100 episodes were all interviews. And I had people telling me right from day one, oh, like, who's going to come on a show with you? Like, you don't have a name or anything. Like, you're not going to be able to get any guests. My third episode was a professional football player. My 10th episode was a Canadian Olympic gold medalist. Like, I just reached out to them on social media and said, hey, I'm doing this show. This is what it's about. Are you interested? And I
Mm,
got a lot more yeses than I got no's. Like,
right.
right? It's like, you never know if you don't try. And it's
Absolutely.
like, so if you have people telling you you can't do something, well, I don't know. I'd rather try and then realize that they were right instead of just take their advice and then always wonder.
Mm-hmm. Right. And the cool thing about that is too, like, even if I don't get to, that Hugh Jackman interview, it's like all these people along the way of me trying, like I'm building it, like building on myself.
Exactly.
Like you're not Hugh Jackman, but I'm gaining probably more than I probably would from an interview with him, like during this conversation. Like it's
Yeah.
just it's awesome. And if people only focus on well, it's not Hugh Jackman or this isn't my goal, then what am I doing? It's like, well, then you're missing out on so many opportunities to learn and have other people learn from it too.
Yeah.
The goal for this podcast is, it's called Iron Purpose. It's based off of Proverbs 27:17, as iron sharpens iron, so one person sharpens another. So it's like, if I can have a conversation that people will grow from and learn from and, have be sharpened by, like, that's what it's all about. And that's kind of what I've been doing. Like you said, reaching out to people on social media, like, hey, this is what I got. Interested or no? And some people reply, some people leave you unread, and some people are like, yeah, let's do it. And it's like, oh,
Yeah.
cool. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly right. And it's like and I mean, yeah, I love what you said too about like, you're missing out on the opportunities along the way. And the other thing too is like, I think something a lot of people forget is that like a lot of the time too, the end goal changes. Like when I started in strength and conditioning, I thought I wanted to be the head strength coach for an NHL team. And like funny part is like the thing that made me like really decide that's not what I wanted was interviewing the head strength and conditioning coach for an NHL team and
Mm,
realizing that their days start at 4 o'clock in the morning. They do like 3, 4 hours in the morning. They travel with the team 10 months of the year. And then they're doing these evening sessions. Like they're basically working all hours of every day, traveling around everywhere. Like, and it's like, as much as I enjoy traveling, I'm also a homebody. Like I like being at home. I
mm-hmm.
like, being kind of stationary in that way. And it's like interviewing this guy. Don't get me wrong. It sounds like a cool life. It just doesn't sound like the life for me.
Right.
But if I hadn't had that interview and done that podcast with that guy, I never would have realized I don't actually want to do that. And I'd still probably be thinking today, oh man, working in the NHL, that'd be pretty cool. But it's like now I'm like, yeah, that looks cool. It's a cool idea, but fuck no, I don't want to do that. Like,
Right.
right? But it's like the opportunities along the way from, instead of listening to the people telling me you're never going to be able to get a good guest on your podcast because you don't have a name, I started reaching out to people and started trying, had that interview, and then realized that sounds cool, but it's not for me. And then the end goal changed again, right? So it's like the more opportunities like that you take, maybe a year down the road, you keep doing these interviews, and then you're like, you know what? Actually, I don't really care if I interview Hugh Jackman, but like this guy over here, that would be a way better. Like you never know where it
Mm,
leads, right?
mm-hmm.
But by engaging in the process, you find the end goal along the way.
Engage in the process. I love that. Yeah, because you may not hit that goal, but it could, that journey could lead you somewhere completely different. And my brother, he's kind of doing a job right now that he doesn't really care for. He wants to do something different. I'm like, well, go work here instead. You don't want to work there, but who's to say an opportunity isn't going to come up that's going to direct your path somewhere else? Like it's not
Yeah.
always, the UFC champion. You're not always going to be able to get that belt around your waist right away, but do some stuff you don't want to do. Sometimes you got to do some stuff you don't want to do in order to get to where you want to be, and you never know
Yeah.
where those channels are going to lead.
Exactly. And like I've talked to guys too that like their goal originally was UFC champion, then they started fighting and like, whether it was like they had a fight that made them realize, hey, maybe that's not going to happen for me, or like maybe just over time they lost passion for that goal. But I've known a bunch of guys that have like they had that goal originally, they started climbing up the ranks, and then they were like, you know what? I actually love coaching. And then they ended up retiring from competing and opening a gym, and now they coach other people, right? It's like the goal changes along the way, but the only way you find your true purpose is engaging and figuring it out, taking the risks, taking the opportunities, trying the things. And then over time, like if you had told me 10 years ago that I'd be working with, like I'd be a strength coach for UFC fighters, I would have laughed. I didn't even watch the UFC 10 years ago. And it was like, but it's like I started seeing more, combat sports stuff. I started working with a couple of guys, started getting more into it. And then as I started getting more into it, I started realizing like the gaps in the training in this space. And then I started realizing, I was like, man, all the things that I love helping athletes with, these guys need desperately. And I'm like, so it just started making me that much more excited about this niche. And then
Mm-hmm.
it's like now it's exploded so much because I have so much passion for it. But I developed the passion through all the other work and opportunities that I had that led me to finding this niche, this area, and then really exploding in there.
Beautiful. I love that. That's It's all the journey, man. It's all about the journey, and like
And
you said,
exactly.
engage in that process. This Everything we've talked about all relates together in some way, shape, or form, and I absolutely love it. We're getting pretty close here to wrapping it up. So I just kind of any last bit of advice or any encouraging words you want to share to anybody that might be listening out there right now.
Yeah, I mean, I think we covered a lot, which is awesome, but I think if I could sum it up in any quick way, it would be like the biggest thing is number one, like trusting yourself, right? It's like if there's an opportunity you want to take, I don't care how many people are telling you like, "Oh, don't do this." I don't know, you have to be realistic or any of that kind of crap. It's like trust yourself, and if you want to try it, because the absolute worst case scenario is those people are right, and then you figure out that those people are right and you go pursue something else.
Mm.
But the best case scenario is it unlocks an entirely different life for you.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's like beyond that, like beyond just trusting yourself, it's like, I mean, it kind of goes hand in hand, but like take the risks, take the opportunities. If something's presented to you and you're not sure, should I do this or not, do it. Because either A, like we said, it leads to something much better, or B, you try it, it doesn't work, and you're right back where you started anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Like trust yourself and just take the opportunities.
Absolutely. You got some awesome wisdom there in that head of yours, man. So I appreciate this time. It's been awesome. Where can people find you to be able to continue to get this kind of knowledge from you?
The best place is definitely the Instagram account. So coach_Dussault, and we'll make sure that we spell that out for people because a lot of people do not get that correct when they try to spell it. I've had some pretty fantastic mistakes when it comes to trying to spell my last name.
I believe it.
That would be number one, and then number two is definitely the podcast too. So I'll get you the link the link for the info there. And
Absolutely.
basically there, it's like I do a mix of like some athlete interviews and stuff like that, but then a lot of just like my own thoughts on things that I come up with, like, as I'm running the business and everything, like conversations I have and just digging deep into that kind of stuff too. So
And that's the Elite Development Podcast, right?
yeah, that's the one.
Awesome. I'll be sure to tag you and we can do some collabs. I'll clip this up and we'll do some
Yeah,
collaborations and stuff. So
absolutely, man. That sounds great.
yeah. Well, it's been awesome to get to know you. I think this is maybe the beginning of an awesome friendship and
Absolutely.
collaboration in the future. Kenny, you got some great wisdom and some great things, and I think you got nothing but great things coming your way in the future. So I appreciate your time, man.
Thank you so much, and I appreciate you having me on. It's been a blast, and yeah, dude, you've got a great thing going here too. So I appreciate the chance to be a part of it.
Heck yeah, man. Appreciate you. Let's do it again sometime soon.
Absolutely.
All right, Kenny. We'll catch you later. Thanks again, man.